What's up, guys? It's been a long time since I've made a video that's not a podcast, but I've been enjoying the new expansions so much, and I've been playing a ton of Hearthstone. I figured it's about damn time for one of these again. I'm excited to talk to you guys about 10 decks utilizing new cards from the brand new expansion, Showdowns in the Badlands. This expansion is super powerful, super interesting, and has a ton of new cards that are even wild impactful. So we're going to hop through a bunch of decks. A lot of them are going to be meta. Some of them are going to be a little bit whack, a little bit out of left field. But I have a bunch of lists in addition to these. I've got like 30 or 40 deck lists over in my Discord. So if you guys want codes and everything like that, make sure you guys click the link to the Discord down in the description for deck codes for any deck that you can imagine. But let's talk about the 10 that are going to feature in this video. So of course we have to start with the Highlander decks. Reno Lone Ranger, one of the most powerful cards that we've seen printed in a very long time. And to cap it all off, it's for the Highlander archetype that so many people enjoy playing. As you can tell by these rough stats, looks like Reno the Lone Ranger is in 30% of wild decks for players that use HS Replay. That's a lot of decks, guys. That is a lot of games that Reno the Lone Ranger is potentially impacting. And when I say potentially impacting, his impact cannot be overstated. This card is so busted and has brought Reno decks back to the forefront in a very, very impactful way. So of course we have to start with a bunch of different Reno decks, and we have to start with what's quite possibly the best Reno deck right now in the format, and that is Reno Shaman. So the reason that Reno Shaman seems to be the most powerful is that not only does it get to abuse Reno the Lone Ranger the best, right? Because you can repeat those battle cries with Macaws and Shutterwalk, but you also have kind of the best new Highlanders, class payoff card in Dr. Holiday. Dr. Holiday, not super flashy, but is very, very good. Lots of stats for minimal cost. Does a whole lot. Very, very good card. So Shaman, you get to use all the broken Shaman things, right? Like you get to do Flurgle Talk still. You get to do the looping of the battle cries. You get Grumble, you get Snowfall, you get Golganeth. You get to do all the good Shaman things. And then you also get to abuse Reno on top of that. So yeah, Reno Shaman looking really, really good. I'm going to touch on two other Reno decks now. I want to touch on Reno Paladin. Reno Paladin, so obviously it also gets Reno the Lone Ranger, but it also has a brand new class payoff as well in Spirit of the Badlands. It's just a really, really nice grindy value card, which Reno decks tend to eventually devolve into, especially in the mirror. Getting to abuse that with Spirit of the Badlands seems really, really good. So this is a 30 card version. Low-key, this might be a 40 card version. There's been a lot of cards that I was like, when I was building this before the expansion, I was like, at 35 cards. I couldn't bring myself to add Renethal, but you could probably get away with that in this deck specifically. I want to talk about a couple other payoffs in addition to Reno, obviously, in Spirit of the Badlands. But you have Hi-Ho's Silverwing. So this is a card not super flashy, but it's going to push a whole lot of Paladin archetype. This is not going to be the last time that you hear me talk about Silverwing. And then a couple of cards that, haven't really made a huge impact in Wild for some reason, specifically Keeper's Strength. The more and more I play with this card, the more and more impressed I am by it. Keeper's Strength, very, very good in combination with stuff like Samuro and Wicker Flame Burn Bristle. So, big fan of Keeper's Strength. And then we also have Prismatic Beam in here to help us against, Pirate Rogues and even Shamans and decks like that. I think the Reno Paladin list, needs some refinement. It might be a 40 card list, like I said, but Reno Paladin has been historically pretty good and got some pretty big upgrades this expansion. And the last of the Reno decks that I'm going to talk about here at the start of the video is Reno Hunter. So this is a archetype in a class that's like normally overlooked, right? It's always Reno Priest and Reno Lock and now Reno Shaman, Reno Paladin. Nobody really talks about Reno Hunter, and I think it's mainly because a lot of people try to build it, grindy, attrition-y like these other Reno decks, but Hunter doesn't excel at that. And speaking at Theldurin, the new Hunter legendary payoff card here, you want to be aggressive, right? That's what Theldurin wants to do. That's what Dinotamer Brain wants to do. And so basically what we have here is a 30 card Reno kind of face hunter. I know I said the dreaded words face hunter, and a lot of people are just going to immediately tune out of this part of the video now. This is just good cards hunter that hit people in the face, is essentially what that is. You also have Sneaky Snake's really good one drop. Theldurin is just a busted card. Agrimar, another. It's just like Theldurin. It was one of the Titans that was kind of slept on. It's really good. And then obviously you have just like good cards like Tavish, Hydrolodon, Reno, Traps, all that kind of good stuff. Again, this is more tempo oriented. I know that's not how everybody loves to play Reno decks, but I think this is the best way to build Reno Hunter. And low key might be the second best Reno deck in the format. So I've been a big fan of the Reno Hunter list, and it's been really impressive. You will get grinded out if you try to play an attrition game plan, but even then, stuff like Tavish, can help you in that game plan a lot. Okay, so that's 3 Reno decks down, but there's been a whole lot of other stuff that's been really interesting so far this expansion. So let's hop on over to Demon Hunter. This is a class that's been experimenting a lot with Questline over the past few months, and I want to feature a list by Corb, who has done the thing of taking like a standard idea and kind of melding it to wild and melding it to that Questline that's really strong in our format. And so this, functions very similar to Wallopers and Brutes, but instead of Wallopers and Brutes, you're playing Nagas and spells, and you're going pew and blowing up your opponent. So yeah, taking advantage of stuff like the Sharpshooter, which I believe is going to get nerfed soon, so play it while you can. But then you've got a couple of new Nagas that have been really impressive, actually, the more I play them. So you have, obviously, the class-specific Desperado, but Dry-Scale Deputy is a card that I think might be getting overlooked a little bit in terms of just being kind of an all-around good card. I've been messing with it a little bit in Evenlock, and maybe some Aggro Priest, and so Dry-Scale Deputy, really good card, doubles up on your really powerful cards like Momentum and Predation and Mana Burn. And so yeah, if you guys are looking for a fun twist, or you guys are standard players looking at wild decks, this might look familiar to you. But this deck plays a lot like APM Mage, a bit of that mixed with the original Questline Demon Hunter. So if that's kind of your style of deck, this one should be right up your alley. All right, speaking of decks from Corb, kind of fit in that same vein. The next one is Questline Warlock. And so Questline Warlock, taking advantage of 2 brand new cards here in Fracking and Furnace Fuel. These cards work really nicely in combination with each other, but Fracking also works really nicely with stuff like Bristleback and helping accelerate you towards that fatigue to not only activate your quest and help you kill maybe just a little bit earlier, but Bristleback getting online just a turn earlier might be super impactful against aggro. And so to make room, you're cutting down on 1 Wing Build, cutting down on 1 Hand Gul'dan. Guys, if you hate Reno decks, this deck might be the one for you. Help you counteract all of that. It's kind of your normal Questline shenanigans. You're going to kind of turbo fatigue. I prefer this version of the deck over the Giants. I know some people prefer Giants, but I kind of like this one. It's a lot cleaner and a lot better, I think, against the Reno decks, which is where I think you're wanting to play this. If you want to try to counter those super popular Reno decks, Questline Warlock might be what you're looking for. And now I'm going to go to a couple of aggro decks that I know people love to hate, but unfortunately, they got some really powerful cards, so I feel like I have to talk about them. And I know even Shaman is constantly talked about as a bot deck, but there are people out there that are playing it that are not bots, and they're jamming some new cards from the new set, specifically Trusty Companion. So this is the 2-mana spell that gives a minion +2/+3, and then if it has a minion type, you draw a card from your deck of that type. So you're playing even Shaman, and you can draw stuff like your Anchor Totem, your Flame Tongue Totem, and your Giga Totem when you use it on a totem from your Hero Power or your Chisel. Just a really solid buff spell that also just draws you one of the most powerful cards from your deck. Seems pretty good to me. Jam Session has been very powerful, and I've been a big fan of the Golganath and Totally Totems. I know some people want to go a lot lower over curves to stuff like Crackle and maybe Wind Furies over the Cold Neophyte tech slot. I think we're at a solid like 27-28 cards out of even Shaman. I think the Totally Totems is really good. It's just an additional layer of threats against Reno decks as well. Give or take though, try it out. I know even Shaman might not be the most interesting deck. It is a button deck in the year of 2023 in Wild, but that being said, it's a very powerful deck. Maybe low-key one of the best decks in the format. So check out even Shaman. Trusty Companion seems really strong for that archetype. A lot of bots are not utilizing it, so if you're queuing into a lot of bots, maybe you can blow them out with Jam Sessions and Trusty Companions and just like play the better even Shaman list. And for the other aggro deck that got a huge upgrade, and that is Aggro Priest. Aggro Priest, mainly taking advantage of the new Thirsty Drifter. Hey guys, did you know that 0 mana 4/6s with Taunt, or even 1 mana 4/6s with Taunt, are pretty good cards, especially in a deck that has stuff like Void Touch Attendant. To make room for the Thirsty Drifters, you're cutting stuff like the Ship's Cannon, and you're pushing down the curve. I'm playing Leper Gnomes and I'm playing Trogs in here. We've cut Shadow Visions and we've cut the Cannons. The Cannons have always been kind of super awkward in this list. So the list that I'm showing to you guys actually has Parachute Brigands. I've actually been experimenting a little bit with Dry Scale Deputy, like I mentioned earlier in this deck. Over the Parachute Brigands, helps you just draw extra burn, right? Whenever you draw a Mind Blast, you get 2 of them. Extra Mind Seers, extra Raised Deads. The issue is that it is just a 2-mana 2/2 on turn 2, so I'm not super in love with it just yet, but I wanted to go with the tried and true for this video. But if you guys are, wanting to experiment a little bit with some Aggro Priest, try out that Dry Scale Deputy. It seems like it has potential. We're going to wrap up our aggro section here, and I told you we were going to be coming back to High Host Silverwing. High Host Silverwing has been pushing the Aggro Paladin variant, specifically the Call to Arms decks. So Call to Arms decks could never really play Knight of Anointment because that is a 1 mana 1/1 with a battle cry. And so High Host Silverwing gives you that card draw, that specific tutoring for those aggro decks that play Call to Arms because that couldn't play Knight of Anointment. And so I've got a couple builds that I'm going to show you here. So the first one is just like a traditional Aggro Paladin deck using, Kotori Lightblade with some really powerful holy spells like Keeper's Strength, Crusader's Aura, Hand of Adal, that you can help tutor off of High Host Silverwing to go alongside Convictions. Use that to discount some Guardian's Grace for that, absurd amounts of burst with the Crab Riders or Kotori. So this is kind of your holy Aggro Paladin. But if you just trim a few cards here, if you notice, a lot of our cards in our deck are 2s and 4s. And so I've actually seen a lot of people messing around with some Even Paladin. Even Paladin seems really, really interesting to me. Because again, you're not giving up a whole lot. Kind of the big thing that you're giving up is Conviction. But by giving up Conviction, you get access to the hero power, right? And the hero power is busted. To make up for that, we're playing stuff like Dunbaldar Bridge, which makes your Call to Arms, your Showdown, which is a new card, and even cards from your hero power seem a lot stronger. And that buff from Dunbaldar Bridge or Crusader's Aura makes your stuff like Keeper Strength even better. And so Even Paladin, I think, is going to be a little bit worse against the Reno decks, but should be a lot better against most of the other aggressive decks in the format. So yeah, I'm a big fan of both of these decks. I'm kind of a sucker for Call to Arms. That was my very first Rank 1 Legend, was a Call to Arms Paladin deck back in the day. Back in my day, feel old, but have a soft spot for these. I enjoy sometimes just playing some Paladin, playing some Call to Arms and hitting people in the face. And both of these decks, while not super flashy, got some pretty massive upgrades, specifically with that Silverwing. Low-key, one of the more impactful cards from the set for Wild. Okay, so then we have to talk about dragons, and dragons are in the Druid class. This whole package of Splish, Splash, Whelp, I'm never going to be able to say that fast, Desert Nest Matron, and Phi. This package of cards just really, really solid, and it's been kind of co-opted into a bunch of different archetypes. And so the first one is a list from OTZ. He is a streamer, constantly, at the very, very upper ranks of the America's Legend ladder. He's been playing a lot of the Dragon Questline Druid. So this is a deck that was around when Twig Sphere was, unnerved in its heyday. And people kind of gravitated back towards this back when Yogg and Questline Druid were super popular, just like a month ago. And they were using this to beat the mirror. So this plays the Questline shell, but then it plays a little bit of a ramp package alongside Guff to do the Bran, Astal, or a Nubarak combo. The inclusion of Desert Nest Matron kind of allows you to pop off even without something like Guff, because you can go Bran, Desert Nest Matron, get your 8 mana, play your Anubricon, and then you can pop off with your Astalor. So that's one way that the dragons are being co-opted, but I am a sucker, obviously, for the Reno variants of these decks that are using the same package of cards, but you get to also play Rhea Straza, you get to play Reno Lone Ranger, you get to play stuff like Aonar, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. It's really, really strange that, at least the Enlightened, the original Druid Highlander payoff card, might be the worst card in this deck. But this is just like good Druid cards, good dragons, get to do some pretty silly, stupid things that are, make you shake your head and be like, just classic Druid. But yeah, the dragon stuff is super powerful, super interesting, and super sweet. Okay, so those were 10 decks, but I'm going to give you guys one bonus deck. I didn't count this as, the 10 because I gave you 10 good decks in Wild. I'm going to give you a bad deck, but a really, really sweet deck that I've been brewing with in Wild. Specifically utilizing the new Warlock Legendary, Popgar the Putrid. So this is the 4-mana 2/6 Legendary that says your fell spells cost 1 less and have lifesteal. Battlecry, get 2 barrels of sludge. That last little part, not super relevant. But what we're doing in this deck is we're playing Evenlock, but we're playing Evenlock with a very interesting package of cards. And so something that's been catching my eye, and I've been super interested in seeing how this could potentially be broken in Wild, is this Fatigue package that they introduced a couple of expansions ago. And so you have Baritone Imp, which is the Imp 2-mana 2/2 that Battlecry, take fatigue damage, gain that much attack and health. Then you have Crescendo, which is going to be kind of the big payoff card here, which is the 2-mana Fell spell. So importantly, it is a Fell spell for Popgar. Take fatigue damage, deal that much damage to all enemies. And then you have Crazed Conductor, which was the 4-mana 3/4 Battlecry, take damage. Fatigue damage, summon that many 3/3 imps. So you got this little 6-card fatigue package that lets you go Popgar into Crescendo on turn 5 or turn 6. So you take a bunch of fatigue damage, you get super low, you play Popgar, you play Crescendo, you wipe the enemy board, you can heal back up to full after you developed like a Molten Giant or 2. And so this deck seems really, really sweet. You've got your traditional Evenlock cards like Goldshire, Null, Anetheron, the Giants, Gigafin, and Sea Devil, things like that. You got a little bit of healing with Drain Soul. I'm running an additional Fell spell in the Demonic Assault to go alongside with Popgar just to give you a little bit of extra healing. Because when you're taking all the fatigue damage, you're taking all those taps, you can get dangerously low, which is a little bit scary sometimes if you're playing against aggro. But you're also Evenlock. You have to thrive. You have to live on that edge of life and death sometimes to get your Giants down and swing the game back into your favor. So just a little bit of a brew that I've been messing with. This is not like the best 30. I'm not saying that this is the best version of Evenlock, which, by the way, I think is a pretty okay deck right now. Just a little bit of fun. I didn't count this into the 10 decks because I knew this was a bad one. People were going to give me crap about it, but I've been messing around with it a little bit. It's a lot of fun, and just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a bonus. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching all the way to the end. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the expansion. Hopefully this gave you some ideas on what to play on ladder. Again, if you guys are interested in deck codes for all this, you can find them down in the description below. Or if you want to find deck lists for a whole variety of additional decks to this, make sure you guys click that link to join the Discord. Just scroll all the way to the bottom. I've got this huge wild deck list section full of meta decks and a lot more of the fun off-meta stuff, which I know a lot of people out there enjoy. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. It was fun to make a video like this again. Hope you guys are enjoying the new expansion, and I'll see you guys on ladder. Later.